In this video, I will explain to you 4 techniques you can use in your way of speaking. Techniques that make women whisper, "Who is this?" So listen carefully. The first technique is flip question, and it's one of the most important skills you can learn. It will help you a lot with women. A reality flip question is when you take something normal that she just showed you and slightly change the angle, so she has to think differently about herself for a second. How do you do that? Most men, what do? They go to a woman and ask, "What do you do? Where are you from? Do you come here often? What is that?" Those are questions she's answered tens of thousands of times. No novelty, no new feeling, no new connection with you. And of course, if you've been following the How to Attract Women series, you already know that once a woman starts talking to you, she links you to the emotion you make her feel, which means when you ask her this kind of boring question, she connects you to nothing because you gave her no emotion. What I want you to always do is ask about things that seem simple but feel personal. Let me give you an example. She tells you about her job. In that moment, what would a normal guy say? Something like, "Wow, that's a nice job," but I don't want you to respond like that. Of course, there are many possible ways to reply, and if you've been following me, you already know examples of such replies. But for now, let's stick with this specific technique, flip question. If we apply it to that situation, you could say, "Okay, but what made you choose that instead of something easier?" A simple question, but it makes her think. Now she's telling you about her decision, her values, and her story. Let me give you another example. You're sitting with her somewhere and notice she knows a lot of people. You ask, "Do you actually know everyone here? Or do you just give off the 'I know everyone' energy?" Do you understand the technique? You ask a question that not everyone asks, and by the way, this isn't just for women, it works with everyone. Now, I'll pause here for a moment and step away from the topic to explain an important concept. Many people, when they want to learn how to be unique and have social power, think they need to learn how to answer, what to say, and how to act. But no, the first thing you must learn is how to ask. That's the most important skill, and the first one you should master. That's a topic for another video in the social skills series, where I'll explain it in more detail. Let's now return to the main point. This question, even if it seems difficult, is actually easy. All you need to do is transform an ordinary question into one that carries a bit of thought. Instead of asking a boring question like, "Tell me about yourself," say, "What do people usually get wrong about you at first?" Now you're talking like a man who pays attention to details. And please, pay close attention to this. You base your question on something real she just said or did. That's what keeps it natural. It's not random psychoanalysis. It's, "I saw this, now I'm gonna tilt the angle a bit." There's one thing I seriously want you to try. Next time you talk to a girl, whether by text or in person, replace one boring question with, "What do people usually get wrong about you at first?" That's it. Simple, real, completely natural. But watch how her answer is much deeper than, "I like movies and travel," and quietly notice what happens in her tone afterward. You'll feel like you're talking to her, not just to a pretty face. And also please, don't overuse it. 1 or 2 reality flip questions are enough. If every line is deep and heavy, it feels fake. Calm is the key. You ask, then stay silent, then listen. That's exactly where your power lies. The second technique is the fractured compliment. And this one is fun. It's one of the techniques you can use to compliment a girl. I've already explained to you other techniques like push-pull, but this one too is a technique I want you to use. It's a little advanced and requires some effort, but it remains simple. Just focus with me and you'll understand it. The fractured compliment is how you make a woman feel 2 things at the same time. That she's truly seen, and that there's something slightly unstable that makes her a little uneasy, in a good way. Most men give flat compliments. "You're beautiful," "You're cute," "You're smart." That's sugar. It tastes good, melts fast, and leaves no trace or hook. But a fractured compliment hits differently. You give her genuine credit, but you leave a small crack in it that makes her ego lean toward you as if she wants to prove something more. So how do you do that? Here's the rule I want you to remember. You don't say, "Your ex." You say, "Your ex," but there's why under it I don't fully buy yet. That's the secret. Let's take an example. One that I actually saw happen right in front of me last week. I saw a guy approach a girl and start talking to her. At first, the girl wasn't taking him seriously. She was laughing, joking, relaxed, and honestly, she was comfortable because she wasn't that attracted to him. The guy wasn't particularly handsome, nor did he look rich, which is normal. But since I'm obsessed with the topic of attraction, I stayed nearby, observing and listening to see what would happen. I started analyzing the girl's behavior and body language, and as I said, it was clear she wasn't attracted and probably wasn't going to give him her number. But then, that guy said one line that flipped the entire conversation 180 degrees. A sentence that suddenly made the girl change her posture, give a small nervous laugh, and start talking to him more seriously. A single line that made her attraction jump from a 1 to an 8 out of 10, and from that moment, the whole dynamic changed. And in the end, he got her number. Of course, I forgot the exact wording, but it was something like this: "You're actually funny. Most girls rely on being cute. I like this version. Keep it. That sentence is the fractured compliment. He gave her approval and appreciation, but at the same time, he implied he's seen others, that he's not impressed by looks alone, and that she's showing a side he actually respects. The phrase keep it is the fracture. Now she wants to maintain that impression around him. If he had only said, "You're funny," he would have sounded like any other guy, and she probably wouldn't have cared. But when he framed the compliment this way, it was as if he planted a virus in her mind that would stay there for a long time. Maybe she'd never forget it. Just imagine having the power to say one sentence to someone that they'll remember for the rest of their life. Yes, that's the effect of the fractured compliment. Let me give you more examples so you understand better. Suppose you see her calm. You could say something like, "You're calm tonight. I can't tell if that's the real you or the controlled you." That's soft, not rude. You gave her calm, then slipped in, "I see there's a mask," or another side. Now she wants to show you more, to prove you wrong or right. Either way, she's investing and thinking. She's stylish. You've got taste. It's nice when it matches the person wearing it. If she's truly deep and classy, she'll feel genuinely flattered. If she's all looks with no depth, she'll feel a small poke. That micro tension keeps her aware of how you see her. She's teasing you. You're quick, just don't slide into corny. It'd ruin it. You rewarded her playfulness, but you also set a standard. Now she adjusts. With you, she wants to be her sharper, higher version self. When you use this kind of compliment, you quietly position yourself as the man who notices details, who has standards, who doesn't hand out unconditional praise. Your compliments feel like evaluations, not worship, and that makes them 10 times more valuable. When praise is rare and precise, it sticks. You must sound relaxed when using this. No edge, no bitterness, no attempt to sound smart, just observant, almost like saying, "I see you, don't disappoint what I just saw." Give a tiny smile. Let the sentence do the work. In that moment, she'll feel two things. He likes me, and I want to keep that spot. That blend is exactly where the thought, "Who is this guy?" begins. So remember the rule. You're X, but there's Y under it I don't fully buy yet. And if you want to learn how to make women feel that way from the first message to the first touch, how to make them whisper without saying a word, that's exactly what I teach inside the attraction algorithm. You'll find the link in the description. So, the third technique, and one of my favorites because it instantly creates a deep connection, is called the controlled confession. The controlled confession is the way you gain depth in communication without becoming weak, and develop edge without pretending. It's when you say one honest line about yourself, clear and clean, real enough to cut deep, but controlled enough to show composure. It's not dumping your pain and memories on her, and it's not fake vulnerability for sympathy. It's simply a glimpse of your inner wiring that makes her think, okay, there's something dangerous and disciplined in him. Most men ruin this technique from both extremes. Some reveal nothing. They act bulletproof, untouchable. That becomes boring. No hooks, no humanity. Others overshare like a podcast guest on anxiety meds, childhood, heartbreaks, insecurities, ex stories, all too early. That doesn't build connection, it builds weight. She didn't sign up to be your therapist. The controlled confession sits right in the middle. It shows that you have a story, but you're not ruled by it. Before I explain how to use it, there's a rule you must always remember. As a man, showing a moment of weakness or a touch of emotion once in a while is not a problem, but it should happen once, and that's it. You shouldn't be emotional all the time. You shouldn't start complaining or crying to her. This technique is a double-edged sword. If you apply it correctly, you'll attract any woman you talk to. If you apply it incorrectly, you'll push away any woman you talk to. Now that you understand this, let me explain how to do it. The controlled confession consists of 3 steps. 1. You explain your standard or behavior. 2. You hint at depth or past pain. 3. You end with strength, not weakness. For example, I don't chase anymore. I used to. It killed my self-respect. Now if it feels forced, I'm out. In this example, what did you do? First, you stated one of your current behaviors. Then, you explained it through a glimpse of past pain. And finally, you ended with a rule, a lesson. You didn't trauma dump, you didn't bleed, you admitted you used to be that guy, and you showed that you evolved. It communicates self-awareness. And the statement ends with a rule, not a wound. And this is something I want you to remember for life. As a man, whenever you go through a problem or pain, it must always end with a rule or a lesson. Especially at the beginning of your relationship with a woman. Never be emotional or weak with a woman during the first meetings or conversations. Another example, I get bored fast with fake energy. That's my flaw. I disengage quick. A flaw and a standard in one line. You're not trying to impress her, you're explaining your operating system. See the pattern? You confess a truth about yourself that explains why you are the way you are, but you don't hand it to her bleeding. You hand it as data calculator, stable, calm, owned. That's why it hits. It tells her, I've been through things, I understand myself, I protect my space, enter carefully. And you do all that in one short sentence, then move on, so you don't appear emotional, while still keeping the atmosphere powerful. This technique does two things in her mind. First, it makes you feel real, not a performer, not a copy-paste cardboard high-value man, a man with edges. Second, it quietly invites her to elevate herself around you. She'll think twice before playing silly games because you already showed her how you handle things. No threats, no long speeches, just one sentence engraved in her mind. And please, don't repeat it too much. One controlled confession per interaction is more than enough. Anything more becomes emotional begging. Use something small but real, even if it's as simple as, I hate emotional manipulation. I've seen enough of it. Then leave it there. No long story. If she's the right kind, she'll feel the weight of that line. If she's curious, she'll pull, and you'll choose when to open more. Choice is the power here. The most important thing I want you to remember is this. Say it in one sentence only, then change the topic. Don't over-explain. Don't dive into too many details. The final technique is the narrative hook. It's about talking about yourself and telling your stories in a storyteller's way. If you have even a basic understanding of marketing, you'll know that one of the most powerful techniques companies use is storytelling, because it's among the best methods of selling. And this is exactly the technique we'll talk about now, the narrative hook. The narrative hook is how you talk about your life in a way that pulls her into your world without ever trying to impress her. Most men either show off or say nothing. The ones who show off talk like this. I have a business. I travel a lot. I know a lot of people. It's heavy, loud, and reeks of effort. She might smile, but deep down she classifies it as performance, not reality. The quiet type, on the other hand, says, nothing special, just work, gym, same routine, no story, no pull, no feeling, you'll be neither. A narrative hook is a short, simple story, but encoded within it is who you are, your standards, your choices, your stability, your level, no bragging, no drama, just a small moment from your life that makes her brain ask, wait, why is his life shaped like that? Now let me give you an example of how the average guy talks. Most of them say, I have high standards. When a girl hears that, she usually feels nothing because everyone says it, and it sounds like you're just trying to boost your own value through words. But let's turn it into a story. It could sound like this. I stopped hanging with people who get loud when they drink. Nights are better now. A normal, simple sentence, but hidden inside it is this. I choose my circle. I'm not afraid to be alone. I prefer peace over chaos. Her brain picks up on that. You don't say, girls like me. You say, I had to start being more blunt. People confuse politeness with interest. Again, casual, but it implies that people are drawn to you and you had to adapt because of it. You don't say, I don't tolerate disrespect. You say, I left mid-dinner once when someone thought raising their voice was normal. That was the last time. Now she clearly sees. This is a man who enforces his own reality. The trick here is, you tell it as if it's not a big deal. You talk as if you're simply describing how your life works. Her subconscious reads the presuppositions. If you say, I had to stop meeting 3 people a day, it was draining. She doesn't think, he's showing off. She thinks, he lives a busy life, and he's selective. You've just installed an image of status and discernment without selling yourself. This was the Dark Needle. I love you, and I'll see you in the next video.